Oh yeah, link it.
Yep,
in the
we're
site
live.
so I can-
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Minority Report. We have a peak panelist right now. We have our regulars, TheAngryShark from the Lost Eurasians, Alejandro with his own channel, Zero Schizo, and Dan Man, anti-communist Cuban. But we're joined with Memphis, Mike
what's
Nolan,
Hello?
and Zeke.
Hello?
So, how you guys doing? Thank you for joining us. It's always nice to have guests on our streams.
Well, hopefully we can make this minority of report a minority of minorities then.
Well, when you think about it, like Rafael always points out, who are the real minorities in the world?
Me.
Ooh,
Ale people.
buddy.
People
Yeah,
that
the
burn in
guy-
the sun.
No, the goys are the. We're all minorities.
We're
Are
all
we all right
minorities.
minorities?
No, it's
When I told Joaquin, whites are technically a minority too, since they are a minorities world population. So yeah, technically we are all minorities, whether it's in the world
Yeah, this
or
is,
the country we're at.
that's
Even
why you
if
need
that
more
was-
brownies in your country, mate. Just get them in. You know, you need that extra population. You know, you just need them.
Yeah, what happens when your old people are like going away? You're not going to make enough money for us.
Yeah, someone's got to pay those fucking benefits, mate. Someone's got to pay them. Maybe Jamal can.
Hey, Australia does not have any Jamals over there.
You're right. They have
Oh,
Husseins
nope.
and Mohammed and Mohammed and Mohammed.
Yeah,
That's worse.
The terrorist attack a couple days back was done by a Somali Muslim, and yeah, we're now making all these memes about the 11 UK cops that needed to reprehend one man with a knife versus the random bloke with the shopping trolley who just fucking threw a shopping trolley at the guy and knocked him in his ass.
You would think that they would at least come like use a goddamn car on these people if you have to.
Yeah,
Like
France.
knock them
France.
down. Oh yeah.
Nice already did that one time. You know, they did that once.
Fucking trolley.
They have to improve their tactics. You know.
Like, don't they at least have like a stun gun or something?
Oh, they tried it on the poor guy, but he had those like Islamic robes on. They're like thick pressed was it
Shoot him
pressed
in the
cotton or something like that?
Shoot him in the face.
Yeah. He
Yeah, eventually.
super knit Islamic garments is what you're saying?
Yeah, electricity proof. He also had his best suit of armor, which is his minority status in Melbourne.
By the way, Nolan, over there, do you need a license for that, or are you cool with that? Just
What, like firearms or no?
any way to defend yourself.
You have a license for that, mate.
Technically not meant to have something that's meant to be like a weapon on you, but basically, if Australians defined by something, it basically we just don't follow the law in general, or we follow the law to the letter of it, but not to the spirit of it. So a lot of people have like cricket bats, utility knives, like 10-inch utility knives. By utility, they mean Bowie.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. It's just, it's not a weird thing when it comes to the gun laws that vary state by state. But in the state that I'm in WA, if you've got enough property, you can get an anti-material rifle if you wanted to. Or just a Barrett 50 cal. It's just like, okay.
Look, you just carry a baseball bat in the trunk of your car, have a baseball glove and a baseball in the back, and your lawyer will thank you later.
I've got to say that's the most based name for a gun, most base description of a gun I've ever heard. An anti-material rifle.
Yeah, I love those.
Like, let's ban assault anti-material rifles.
Well,
Like, they're all assault anti-material rifles.
well, their whole deal is like they're meant to punch through armor. That's why those are anti-material rifles.
That sounds metal.
It's a removed material, mate. The question is, what kind of material?
I
Got
like
him.
it because it leaves room for customization. What kind of material do you want to be eliminating today, sir?
What was it?
First,
Hey,
kissing incendiary.
You guys ever heard that joke? It's a really old school racist joke. And the guy says what do you need this gun for? Well, I was just gonna be shooting some cans. Keeps on going up to a bigger gun. He says, "What kind of cans you shooting?" He says, "Oh, you know, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans."
I remember that.
I've never heard that joke actually.
I can't remember. There's probably like a third can out there. I'm just too lazy to think of it.
Canadians.
Cubans.
Cuban.
I went with the Canadian.
Dominicans. I don't know. There's plenty of other
Dominicans.
cans out there.
Dominicans. That works.
Africans.
Africans. Damn it.
It's
Yeah,
not that hard.
Africans, Puerto Ricans.
How do you miss like for a racist joke? How do you miss like the biggest race? That's like a problem.
Well, I think it's probably because I'm on Minority Report, and you know.
Oh shit!
and well, I was just thinking that today. Like, we are all technically minorities. I was like, yeah, but we're like in a majority of like we don't have the one minority, and we're okay with that.
Yeah, I have like a smidgen of Irish in me, you know.
Mhm.
I got a little bit of Italian.
No, hard to hide the pasta sauce. But yeah.
So I'm wondering, how did they convince everybody in the Western world to take these Somalis in? Like the lowest IQ out of the whole African continent, pretty much the most violent version of Islam. Like, how do they even manage to convince people to take all these Somalis in Australia, Finland, Sweden, Minnesota? I don't get it.
Yeah, I can tell you why. It's because they gave women political action, and then they did those little ad campaigns with that dying little kid with his hands out, being like, you know, oh, I wish I was home. I could be an engineer. I wish I was somewhere safe. And then looks into the camera as like, your household is safe.
Our economies were so good for so long. Like that sweet spot from 1950 to 1990 something, that people could pad generations of wealth, and even your lower class whites were still just not having to give a fuck, man. Like your average dumbass could still retire and have some
5 kids and
cash left over. Like, I mean, and I'm from that camp. I'm from that camp of people who were not rocket scientists, but still managed to like make do. But when you have a generation of blue collar whites, well, let's just say middle class Americans, but specifically the whites from 60s and on, when you had that sweet spot of a middle class where the blue collar didn't have to concern itself really with politics or what the white collar class was doing, there was no need to concern, and so America was able to be sold out by and large exponentially over those 30 years of bad trade deals.
the internal boomer. I was gonna say in Minnesota's case, they managed to get their cousin into the top office, you know, and then he just opened up the floodgates for everybody to come in.
But yeah, by the way, I do have friends from Minnesota, and there are a lot of Somalian migrants over there, supposed refugees. But yeah, by the way, it's not the case, you know. And there are a lot of
even with the like Melbourne is struggling with these Africans, because now we've got these Nigerians. We used to have this point system where if you had like an occupation that we wanted, a profession, a degree, we would basically be like, okay, you can come in, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're an engineer. Yeah, like really rare, but there were some in Nigeria. And the problem is they came over, they had kids, and the commies bringing this up every now and then when they talk about inheritance. They say, just because your parents are smart doesn't mean you're smart. The problem is they forget that. when it comes to importing high IQ brown people into the country. And so basically these Nigerians, because, you know, the base Nigerian IQ is pretty fucking low, you know, they have these base kids, regression to mean kids. And now they're joining the Sudanese and the Somalis in theft, rape, murder, all down in southeast Melbourne.
Oof. By the way, over here there are, yeah, we are seeing the beginning of the Haitian migrant wave, because people from Haiti were used to migrate to Chile, but now that they have basically collapsed the healthcare over there in Chile and a couple of other things, they are starting to go to my country, because this fucking woman, Angelina Jolie, showed up with a mission from the UN, so to speak, and she told us we should open our gates, and our gates were already open, you know. But fuck, and a lot of more people are going to come, and this is just the beginning for us. Fuck, we are fucked.
Angelina Jolie ain't a woman. Look at her face; she's a skeleton queen.
Other titties off too.
Hey, welcome aboard, Pilleater. Nice for you to join us.
Hey guys, just got back from Baltimore. Just had a long day at open house. So.
Oh, you definitely had a long day if you went to Baltimore.
Wait, Baltimore? I thought he said Boston. Damn, Baltimore.
Baltimore, yeah. I was going to Johns Hopkins and other schools just for open house.
You poor unfortunate soul.
Well, I mean, the nice part is it's not that part of Baltimore.
That is the only part of Baltimore. Hold on.
Well, I mean, Baltimore is like 5 minutes and you're done driving through it.
I get why people go to Philadelphia for higher education or New Jersey, but it's like Johns Hopkins is probably the best reason to go to Baltimore. But other than that, I know what you're saying.
Oh, I can think of a couple of reasons people go to higher education in Philadelphia. It's easy. It's easy to shine like a diamond in Philadelphia.
I will say that last time I was in Baltimore, the military threatened to sick their dogs on me.
We used to joke about that when I was in. We had this joke. We'd be like, baby, they're sending me on deployment. Where? Iraq? No, Baltimore.
I mean, I got a question for you, though. What do you think is worse, Baltimore or Detroit?
Detroit.
I mean, Baltimore at least has the Inner Harbor. That's pretty nice. You have the aquarium and the convention center.
Well, I've lived in those areas.
You can drive south and escape.
It's like there's two parts. It's like Philadelphia by the sea mixed with a little Detroit. That's Baltimore.
Oh, well, that sounds like Baltimore wins then. Fuck.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
is it worth Philadelphia?
You keep going north, it's really nice.
Because I lived in Michigan. I lived around Detroit for a while. And, you go south, and then you just hit Cleveland, which is like...
That's literally worse.
Oh, yeah, no, it smells like shit.
I mean, what's the difference, Eminem or Machine Gun Kelly? I don't know.
The difference is that Cleveland smells like shit. Fuck Ohio.
Well, it's Cleveland. It's like it shows you that Detroit and Cleveland make the best rappers.
Heroin overdose.
I really can't recall a rapper from Baltimore. That's the issue. So I'm not so sure. Maybe I'm not thinking of one at the moment.
Hey, yo, check my SoundCloud.
Ray Lewis. Oh, wait, that's murderer.
I mean, there's an entire genre of black music from Baltimore called Baltimore club music, and it has a very repetitive, notorious beat that's like they play it in Philadelphia a lot, and it's called Be More. But
so it's Jewish.
I don't know. I don't know the exact origin, but it was from 10 years ago.
All right.
Wait, does it sound like this?
The meme is like that. All rap music is Jewish, yeah.
All right. So, but yeah, I mean, it's whatever. What are you going to do with higher education today being in, especially at Baltimore is like where Black Lives Matter and the Baltimore riots start. It's kind of like ground zero for all of that. So I did meet a white liberal today who did this art project where he collected a bunch of things he found on the ground from Baltimore, from dice he found to rocks and things, and he said this is a part of Baltimore that's being forgotten, and that the community is letting go. And he was the type of person as well to say that the reason why there's problems in Baltimore, and he told me this, was because of white racism. So I guess that's, you know.
Were there chicken wings and shell cations in his collection too?
I mean, for a city that's 150 years of democratic rule, it's easy to believe that. So
I was gonna say, are the rocks he picked up crack rocks?
Well, he picked up a dice, a crap dice, which I thought was interesting. A broken watch he found in a lake. It was kind of an art thing he was showing too.
Dominoes, menthols.
Yeah, and he's saying, yeah, things like that. And he was doing it as found art and saying this is a part of Baltimore society about urban decay. And urban decay is just a nice way of saying abandoned.
I was going to say, this actually goes to show the degeneration of our society, that someone like this is basically taking the scraps of blacks and saying this is like art, and then saying
that's what he was doing.
And then that you know, to the amount of guilt that man probably felt, if he can even call himself that at this point.
It was more like a Masters of Fine Arts in the Community Arts, an MFA. That's like a 3-year program for the community. So if you have $120,000 in 3 years of your time,
you can go pick up cigarette butts and say it's art.
Yeah, and I'm very suspicious about that. That's not what I want to spend my money on. So
no.
Oh no! I mean,
that makes me want to throw up. It's disgusting.
There was an exhibition called the Museum of Blank, and one person had the Museum of Regretful Breakups to the Museum of Used Condoms.
What the fuck?
Whatever you want to call that art, it's there. I'm just saying.
That's there was that documentary where they talked about who and how they ended up buying up all the art markets in downtown New York, which is the hub for all that. When they started perverting it in the 80s for modern art, that was like one of the last things to hit, because it was like it was kind of like how a cat will just like knock over shit. It was like the last thing they hadn't fucked up.
Yeah.
So also, they figured, why not see what they could do with it?
Yeah. Also, by the way, I was trying to write a paper about the Black Panther movie, but it's supposedly it encompassed a lot of things like Afrofuturism and something like that. And I wanted to know much more about that, because I felt that there was like a shed of identity within that would have been interesting to cover. But the problem is that when I sent some mails to this supposed talking about Baltimore, supposed organization that cared about all of these things in Baltimore, about black people and all this stuff, they responded that they are not interested in someone else talking about them or something like that. I was like, bro, I am trying to expose you to good ideas so you can maybe craft something. I don't know, but they just feel so entitled to themselves, and I don't get it. I don't get why.
Well, the whole thing is that these people, they've been broken down to the point where they're basically tools. Like, I don't mean that in no like old farmhand sense either. They're just basically used as like political tools and stuff. But it's just, and it's shitty because like they get the free easy life, and they've had it for so long that they just don't know a way without.
Speaking of Black Panther, have you guys seen the recent movie of Black Klansman that features an actor of David Duke in it?
I refuse to watch that.
I saw that last night at the open house film as a college liberal watching a movie about a little Spike Lee movie about a Black Klansman trying to figure out, David Duke's innate harmful racism. And it's kind of funny in a way, and it's a typical Spike Lee movie about race, the difference between whites and blacks, how they interpret race. But interesting, though, I don't know if you guys watched David Duke on JF's program, where David Duke said it was a character of himself. Not so sure if any.
Yeah, I have seen.
Why didn't they have him play himself in that movie?
Because that would be giving racist money, and they don't want to do that.
The biggest dollar.
I don't know if you guys seen the movie, but in the movie, I actually saw this last night when I was as a college open movie project. David Duke pointed this out as well on JF, where in the movie, you know, the black cop, you know, he's having a love affair with this like mulatto white black girl with an afro, and she looks like a pretty normal model anyone would bang, right? And it's like the black power girl into Stokely Carmichael, you know, Carmichael who's anti-Semitic and whatnot. But
of course she's mixed, though.
Yeah, of course she's mixed. She's not pure black, right? She has some little white in her. But
let's not get crazy.
No, I'm just saying using like Roosh V common sense, right? It's just any. Now, however, the point is when you get to like the white neo-Nazi nationalist guy, the guy that looks like the guy from Breaking Bad, his wife seems to be this fat white lady who's biologically dependent on him, and she's out of shape, and she's trying everything to be loved because she's ugly, and she says, "Hey honey, I found these evil niggers across the street, and here's a paper so I know how much you hate niggers." And then she's like, "Get and make me a kitchen woman," and she's like passive aggressive, and she believes it's the second Tea Party as something referring to Sarah Palin's thing.
This thing sounds so cringy.
It is, but it's so the irony here is, how come in the PC environment we worship like femin and like the new beauty standard is fat, ugly girls? But it's weird when the enemy in this movie, when they want to talk about relationships, they say, no, the evil white nationalist guy has an evil, fat, and ugly wife. And the good guys have the beautiful, black, and attractive woman. I just don't understand why the attractive and ugliness comes into play. But outside of that, they want to show these norms by having the fat lady on Cosmopolitan. Well, it really is anti-white project going on.
Yeah,
but yeah.
It is. Those two things
one at a time, guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was saying those are two different audiences. That movie is trying to be like, okay, well, any kind of like the last of the people who actually can think straight, have an idea of what beauty is. That's what the ugly wife and the beautiful mulatto woman is for. The feminine stuff, I mean, that's for people who are further down the tracks, way further down the tracks, and they don't really have this concept of what is beauty, what is aesthetic, what is moral. So yeah, they're for two different audiences. One who's only got his toes in, the other one who's already down the deep end.
You know, it's really messed up. Didn't they have a Chosen Light play David Duke in that movie?
Oh, it was Kylo Ren. It was, or no. Andrew Driver. Yeah. Kylo Ren was a Jew playing, but there was this interesting relation between the Jew and the black. In fact, there's this one scene where, if you want to say the based neo-Nazi guy, you would hear on the rightstuff.biz meme forum was like, "I know you're a Jew. Come take this liar detector with me." And he was lying, saying, "No, I'm not a Jew. I'm a white nat like you." "Oh yeah? The Holocaust never happened." And then he said back, "Well, if it did happen, if it did happen, wouldn't you want to kill the Jews in place? That just shows you how much of a better, Aryan I am." And so we made this weird, this conundrum where he was fooling how stupid the neo-Nazi was because, well, if you deny the Holocaust, you should actually believe it because you actually want to kill Jews. And it's like that weird deconstruction thing, you know?
Well, the whole thing is you could counter. It's so easy to counter that because be like, all you have to say is look how many are still here and how many are in power. It's not that difficult of a counteraction. It's, we have the state of Israel. Like,
I think Hapel Happa told me this, and he said that the Holocaust, although the Holocaust wasn't real, the problem is there will be a Holocaust in the future because of. Or he said something really funny. He said, like, as much as people, you don't want to believe it, like, okay, the Holocaust wasn't real, but a further Holocaust will happen because of that, or something.
That's
really
what I call Fed posting.
Yeah, he was saying like, it's like this really mean, far right meme joke he was saying.
Someone earlier this week, I can't remember who said it, but they said what they should have said in response to the synagogue shooting is what they should have said is those people were who was responsible. It was essentially the companies who censored everyone to the extent to where this guy felt like he had no other options. And that wasn't like used as justification for it, but it was trying to say everyone's looking for someone to finger the blame towards. Like, oh yeah, it was the alt-right, it was the neo-Nazis, it was the leftists. And what it is, it's the overall consequence of the environment.
Yeah, no one really wants to think about this, but obviously, like, nothing happens in a vacuum. Although that is a line of rhetoric that lefties use to be like, okay, nothing happens in a vacuum. So even if you want to stay by yourself, you still need to accept black people. But taking that from a rational point, yeah, nothing happens in a vacuum, and there's a lot more other factors, and they refuse to introspect, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But yeah, it's a very important thing to think about when it comes to these kind of situations, and especially when it comes to narrative crafting in the future.
I mean, even Spike Lee movies in general, where it's always, if you ever seen Do the Right Thing, the cliche of his films is there's a white guy and there's a black guy talking about how bad race relations is in America, and there's a lot of truth to that. But the irony is that you'll have this kind of Al Sharpton poverty pimp to it, where they are trying to put it as, white people owe something to black people, or there should be this kind of anti-white mannerism in order to make it fair, egalitarian play. But the irony is, and even in Black Klansmen, the black power guys, the white power guys, well, they're both racist, but it's like this weird liberal centrist view where it's like, well, everybody can have their identity, so as long as everyone can get along, and that promotes the whole multicultural thing. It's just like the whole gives me that philosophy put into this professional film critique way, which is kind of annoying, really.
Well, any kind of democracy that is void of racial homogeneity is going to lead to some sort of insurrection eventually. And so the whole it's key to remember that egalitarianism is a Bolshevik grab bag trick. It is a communist trick. It is a Frankfurt development. It's not the natural state of the universe in any capacity. So what we're experiencing in present day America and all over the rest of the world is the result of turning Western societies into social experiments.
Yeah, it's unfortunately like that. I mean, if you look, I was looking up on Wikipedia as I was, before I left Baltimore, I looked at the statistics of, in 1950, Baltimore had 900,000, people living in the country, or not country, the state of Baltimore, or city of Baltimore. And it was basically, I think it was like 70% white. And then all of a sudden today, the rate is 600,000 people, and it's 67% white, or no, 67% black and 24% white. And it just shows you through the statistics from 1950 and today, just from this brief Wikipedia, if you look up Maryland, Baltimore demographics, it shows you that swift. And if within a decade, well, it could be 80% black, and then the whites are just hanging out at Johns Hopkins or something. I don't know.
Did you see bust in to go to the schools? Probably that's it.
Did you guys see, like we're already seeing it, and I think that the bad news is kind of like crept up. When bad news happens, it happens kind of like exponentially, and it kind of happens in a bunch of places. And so you've seen. In Florida, you saw in Georgia, like these fucking people are straight up just trying to rig elections in front of God and everybody. The Jews, the blacks, they're not even playing. They're just saying, they're just cramming it into a box, and they're like, if they can grab the guns and the codes before anybody wants to fight them, because I guarantee you, the South is about ready to go in 10, 20 years, exactly like you're saying. The South's demographics are way off center. Like, yeah, okay, places like Chicago and New York, those places have heavy populations, but out here, it's already 30% of like the entire makeup of
the whole state.
Exactly. Like when it goes, it's gonna fucking go, and you almost saw it happen in Georgia right now. This lady had to be run off. She's pushing for a runoff, and she lost by like 10,000 votes. Wow. And I don't even know how bad it is in Florida.
Yeah,
it's all Democrat in Baltimore, so there's no hope there.
Like, did you hear? Like
we had this guy Gillum and DeSantis. And apparently they're doing a recount for the votes.
They apparently found like 20,000 votes or like ballots like in the basement of a school, which is weird because schools in Florida don't have basements because basements flood in Florida all the time if they were to ever have them.
Exactly.
And the lady's name was Lakeisha. Lakeisha found them votes, y'all.
Even so, like 40 hours after the initial count, those votes are invalid. That's how the law is like supposed to treat it.
These people are terrorists, man. They warrant like real life, like IRL Fed posting. Wink, wink. Like they are so unhinged, man.
Well, you've seen what happened.
They're just willing to do. Wasn't it this particular black woman, right? She has a history of voter fraud and forging voter papers. And there was an instance where she was handing out voting cards with race ticked off already for like these specific communities. So it's like okay, bye democracy, bye voting. Now granted, I'm kind of okay with that, but not in that regard.
No one's stopping her, and you would think under Rick Scott they would have fired her when he first got elected in his first term, but they just keep electing her and no one's doing anything about it. So this Snipes woman's like, I'm gonna do it because I can and no one's gonna stop me, and she still thinks she's getting away with it. And I know Rick Scott said that he was gonna sue and they kind of have a lawsuit going, but they need to fight harder, and Trump needs to like stop his trip to Europe and try to take care of this mess here and in Arizona too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we just got an amendment passed that was to allow felons to vote. And Vice actually did an article about this, boasting about how pretty much Florida is going to be lost in the next election and how it's going to play such a key role. Like 1.5 million. We won this state, I guess, by less than like 100,000 votes. I mean, 1.5 million felons. I mean, they're going to start busing them into the voting booth as soon as 2020 comes in.
Right.
I guess they just couldn't wait with the Puerto Ricans and Haitians. Just importing them wasn't enough. Might as well just let felons vote. That's pretty much what lost Virginia.
Yeah.
They essentially are doing that because they're essentially letting those people vote because those are the guys that commit the most felonies, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Also, by the way, what do you feel about Florida turning red? I feel that's because of, of all the Cubans.
Florida, I think, has the second largest prison population next to California. I don't even think it's Texas. I think it's Florida.
Yeah, it was the Cubans that actually, because if we would have been, let's say, taken out of the equation, it would have gone to the Democrats. There was a guy called John Carlos something that he did the figures, and he said if the Cubans didn't vote the way that they did, that we would have lost the state.
Well, I know that a couple Hispanics did lose the congressional race, Salazar and Curbelo. But I heard Curbelo is kind of like a conservative part of the Paul Ryan wing, which is why he lost. And then Salazar lost to a fucking Haji that didn't even speak Spanish. I'm like, how is that even possible?
Yeah, it's just that we have there's going to be areas where there's a lot of multicultural, the most in the areas of Miami-Dade and Broward, it's mostly diverse, in the sense of many different groups, but in the areas specifically where Cubans dominantly live, those went red completely.
Dude, we got to start. It's to the point now we got to start pushing the conversation to try and shift that Overton window. My policy is zero immigration for 20 years. We just need to shut every last. I don't care how legal they are, how clean. I don't care if they're a saint, man.
We also need to crack down. We have to go extra hard on deportations.
Yeah, it's getting out of hand. If they're a saint, man.
We also need to crack down. We have to go extra hard on Florida was securely red.
Yeah.
To now it's up in the air. There's a county that was won by one fucking vote.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I don't know what county that is, but
it was
I can imagine
County, Florida.
Yeah, look, the more the other like the neighboring, because we have a lot of Venezuelans that are here, we have a lot of Colombians here, we have a lot of other Puerto Ricans, Haitians, African Americans, Jamaicans. I mean, it's a fucking melting pot, and every one of those groups usually ends up voting blue. Every single one of them, and the only one group that does is the one that has kind of still somewhat of a stronghold in the cities, which is the Cubans, unfortunately. But we're going to lose that. It's gonna end up going the other way, especially when the felons get to vote, and especially that one. What Vice's article pointed out is that 1 out of 4 is like black.
Yeah, 40% are black. You get crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And what do? They have an in-group preference, and they're going to vote for if another Andrew Gillum gets there. Oh, God, then you for sure have these people voting.
Yeah. Also, by the way, what do you feel about what former Senator McKinney, former Congresswoman McKinney said about, that we all should start to look up the ideas or the ideology of Black Panthers that they had in the '69, which is basically Juche, because they started to look up to Juche in January, and in I believe it was in August of the same year, they started to seek alliances with the young patriots, which were the working class whites, and also with the young lords, which were the Cubans. So I am making the coalition, the meme, so to speak. Nazbola gang plus like Hispanic phalange. Maybe that's. What do you say?
I don't know if the Black Panther ideology can really apply to people like me.
Well, the early Black Panthers certainly were much better off than whatever is calling themselves the new Black Panther Party nowadays. It's completely different.
I'm not going to lie, but if you watch... sorry about that. If you watch Black Klansman, Stokely Carmichael, the actor's playing it, there's basically the black cop goes in there. He doesn't know what any of them are talking about. It's acting. It's not real, but the irony is that, he doesn't understand, this kind of somewhat black communist, or at least sort of I would say it's civic black nationalism in a way, where he's talking about revolution, killing racist cops, but arming yourself and only thinking about us as people. And there is some type of, black nationalism in that. And even though it sounds like degrading towards whites, and obviously whites will attack back, and it's right for white cops to go and investigate for obvious reasons. But again, it's like it shows you to a point where it seems like blacks almost half a century ago were revolutionary. But now today, I think there's just so many blacks where I think there's a self-defeatist, almost nihilist attitude where this ideology of multiculturalism really means babysitting everything, this nanny state with every race, and everyone's, not only whites are in the soy boy position, but as well the Black American gives me that position where he can't break free of that.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you that this fucking welfare state have been nuking every single opportunity or attempt to reform a revolutionary idea. Yeah, you are completely correct about that. But at the same time, for example, within Juche, it was Kim Jong-il, the father of Kim Jong-un, who said that you can actually have cooperation and internationalism, but only with nationalism. One has to love and completely always fight for their own nations, and then you can start talking. Otherwise, you're basically a multiculturalist traitor and such.
And the people who will tout the biggest line about how everybody should be able to come in and no borders, and they have just as much. Your family was immigrants once upon a time too. All the people who preach that, it's funny because they're so brainwashed to the point people don't even realize how much their wallets are just fleeced every day. Pretty much every single person in this country is fleeced for at least half of their labor. when you count it all up at the end of the day, between your property taxes, everything. So the same metropolitan urbanites who will tout this the most and just spew this cancer are the same people who will get fleeced for 60 to 70% of their income and have one kid or not even have kids and have a dog and just talk about how it's their time for Western civilization to take a back seat.
You know, if you look at they've taken polls, and practically every race in this country all agree that they want lower immigration. So, some want no immigration, but they all want some type of action done on immigration. But literally, no party is doing any action on it, even though that's what the people want.
Could that have to do with some sort of influence, maybe?
Some kind of purview of acceptable opinions and political action?
This one ethnic group tends to succeed better in societies that are multi-cultural, multiracial, and I give you a hint, it rhymes with screws.
The word is it clues?
Let me ask you guys, because I've been wondering what your thoughts are. Because one of the arguments that I hate the most is the one that people push out there that, oh, this certain group is just smarter because they have a higher IQ. What about you guys? What do you guys?
Well, if you're like the Jared Taylor race realist, it's not like you cuck yourself, but you say, oh yes, Asians do have a higher IQ than Western people. But again, if you're a Western white person, you realize that you have the Faustian spirit of creating art. And that's something I would say most of Asian society, especially the Chinese, do not have, or something like that.
In a way, you don't call anime art?
Well, no, I said Chinese. I said Japanese. Like I'm saying, because that's why I think while Westerns can relate to Japanese and some Korean and maybe some Chinese in there is because of this creation of art. But again, this art is, a simulacrum of Western art or something.
And so I won't we don't advocate for IQ nationalism.
I know, yeah, and that's the point. It's like you could be talking about IQ. Yes, Chinese probably have the highest IQ in the world. Well, depending if you think Ashkenazi Jews are higher, but the point is, the thing is, it's just a number, right? They're certainly like today when I saw the typical, John Hopkins alumni, right? It's basically was, oh, this individual, that individual. I'm like, wait, these are all Chinese and Korean names. I didn't see any Robert Smith or, a Joe or a Bob. They were all Asian names. And I just think that's funny. Whether you want to call that cuckoldry or just IQ supremacism, I don't know. But again, I don't think IQ is the right way to go. I mean, some people think that, but I think it's more like, again, ethno-nationalism, or that it's okay. It's just like where some people believe in freaky black power and jive talk and being, rap lifestyle.
Yeah, definitely. Because, for example, rephrasing what George Lincoln Rockwell said, that if you have a talent, you have a goal, you should actually push that much further and become a fanatic of that, of what you are making. And that's the main difference between the Chinese and the Chinese and all these other Asians and the white people. In the case of my country, some mestizos are really good at that, and also some Amerindians as well. That they understand that this concept that we should focus on what we have and push it to the next limit. Yeah, to as much further as we need to do, as we need to go. But that's called merit, meritocracy. And this meritocracy should come in that way. But what this specific group are doing is not the meritocracy. It's nepotism. They actually have some like a mob mentality, and it's fascinating in a psychological, social sense. But
if current trends keep continuing, it'd probably be like I would say it's this Asian Aryanism, where it's like, well, okay, all the Asians graduate from the highest prestigious colleges, all the whites and Asians create a Eurasian super people, right? It doesn't sound like Kalergi because, again, they force blacks into higher positions, but they have such a high dropout rate. And so if we are solely based on meritocracy and IQ nationalism, we'll definitely see this kind of, this ironic or Eurasianism happening where everyone still wants to be egalitarian and think individualized, but again, you'll create this race in return. And I think the higher academia knows this. They know they're creating they're trying to make anime. They're trying to make anime real. I see it everywhere in art school and everywhere.
Well, you'll have a race of Mongoloids essentially.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things. We had this big conversation at the last meeting about the Indian caste system. Technically, the Indian caste system is meritocratic. You can go up and down. The problem is that even though the function of it is meritocratic, it's still racially separate. You can look at the Brahmin and they're incredibly light skinned. Some of them have blue and green eyes. You go down to the warrior class and they're like slightly different, but they're still kind of the same. Then there's like the merchant class and the merchant class as well, merchants. And then you like go down to the peasant class, and the peasant class is just basically like your low-end labor types within a society. And then you go down to your untouchables, and your untouchables, actually, little joke on the side, the untouchables in India are the closest related group to the Aboriginals of Australia.
I mean, they kind of have the same like skin tone and look.
Like the Devonian, not the Devonians, it's like an Indian tribe that's like their closest related link. But yeah, even in a meritocratic system, you still get these caste separations, and those caste separations either become racial over time or start off as racial, and everyone just gets the shot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we've seen this happen before. This ain't a theory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think when they have this, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, what I was getting at is that you should try to be the best, push further your limits, but on the basis of helping your community, of helping your nation. That's the idea. That's what George Lincoln was trying to say. But all these people that we have been seeing, this guy, for example, maybe, who was this guy? Don Lemon? Maybe he has a high IQ, I don't know. But the issue is that he's pushing for something that is destructive. And that's the counter narrative to the meritocracy that Jordan Peterson is talking. And that what George Lincoln said, his meritocracy is their conception of meritocracy is very different. And that's that was my point.
Well, I was going to say, when they have these baby selecting gene things where you can design your own baby, it's going to really take off in India first. You're going to have them pretty much going back to looking Aryan again. They're going to select for blue eyes, green eyes.
That's really interesting you bring that up, because I think that'll be the end game. It's like capitalism right now. I mean, it sounds like some Marxist or something, but I'm saying is everything's so consumer driven. We find out like so much of the normies now like look to Instagram or Facebook as a form of social validation and beauty. And it's like, well, imagine if you have an entire generation saying, hey, it's okay to be nerds, it's okay to watch anime, right? And then they do this baby designer thing and they want their kids to have innate blue hair against the kids' will. Then it's going to create this really strange generation, like kind of like animals in a slaughter factory, really. It's going to be pretty strange. I mean, it sounds science fiction, but it's true.
It's like, do we have... on that point, is there like a way for them to to enable a gene that may not necessarily exist in their bloodline to enable like blue eyes? And
oh yeah,
the human genome, man, is like your DNA. You have in your body right now. You have all the DNA, like needed to manifest whatever you are. If you're Asian, if you're white like me. My DNA has all the DNA to manifest my body to look like damn near any other white person. Yeah. It's just like moving back and forward in that cipher of the entire human genome. Now, what is actually manifested and represented in what I look like is, obviously in my balls and so on and so forth. But the human genome once you know how to navigate it, that's the thing, is there is no limit.
I had this conversation with one of our guys who's
everything on 12.
Sorry, I think I cut out there for a bit. I think you cut out there for a bit for me. Yeah, we had this big conversation with one of our guys who's a PhD and he was a geneticist doctor, and he summed it up really succinctly, which is the human genes and genes in general are the CD that gets to make its own Walkman. So you can have a gene that says something, but because a gene further down the line dictates how that gene can and will be read, you can change what that gene does nearly entirely.
Yeah, it's like your buddy said. Once you just know how to move back and forth inside the genome, the limit. That's what I was saying. You could put everything to 12. It's like that old Spinal Tap video where he's like, "I've got all the levels to 11."
Well, it's at that point where if you're messing with eugenics like that, wouldn't it just claim that race is real? But instead of denying, it's more like the social constructivist people don't believe in this Heideggerian notion of being in your tribe and your race and your community, and rather kind of defeats nature and wants to create this super people. It's kind of strange. It's like, if that ever happens, that's like, okay, race is real, but to a point that it's only for designing purposes.
Well, think about it this way. What if you're people have done, okay, have you ever seen that picture that cycles around, Reddit or Facebook or whatever, and it's all those paintings, and they're all like, some of them are neoclassical, some of them are Renaissance, some of them are all these different time frames, and they'll have someone like standing in front of the photo in present day wearing the same uniform as the person in there, and it's to highlight that these people exhibit the same facial features almost to a T of the people in the photos. And so the idea is that I always have this joke that when I travel a lot, that everywhere I go, everyone is pretty much the same 12 people. Like there's 12 guys and 12 women. And they've kind of narrowed down genetics to that scope too, to where they can map out, who has facial features from this region and that region. And so the concept that this meme was trying to get at is that when you are trying to preserve your progeny to look like you, and you have an in-group preference for someone who displays the physical characteristics of yourself or people who are of your tribe, your people, that's essentially one of the most ancient ways of projecting yourself into the future. And in a way, if you want to get a little esoteric and philosophical about it, in a way, it's a way of kind of touching that immortality.
Yeah. I mean, I've looked at pictures of me next to my grandfather, and it's basically like a clone. The same thing with my mom and my sister.
The concept is that you have to wonder, like, your grandfather probably would exhibit a great deal of pride to know that generations down the line, there's a kid who looks just like him. And so my question, this is the big question, the black pill, is if you can perfect your own like genetic manifestation, and you just knew that your kid could have kids that looked like you and your family, and you could never get cancer, is that going to necessarily be a bad thing?
I don't think so. I think it'd be perfectly fine for us to try and weed out imperfections.
Yeah. I mean, I want my kids to live 1,000 years and like explore the stars. Like, right. As far as I'm concerned, that's good enough for me.
Right.
Yeah,
I agree. If I could do that, I did good.
Over here, that debate is still on the fence. It's like, then we get into like what are you? Are you your perfections? Are you imperfections? And generally, I sit on the same side of the fence as you. So I think we do need to have a long-term perfection of ourselves. I mean, and someone's having some problems.
Are you okay? Did you break 3 of your ribs?
Have you fallen down and can't get up?
he broke all 6 gazillion of his ribs right there.
Oh my god.
But yeah, like you were mentioning Memphis, I thought that was very interesting because, you know, if anything, like me and my father, we almost look exactly identical, and it's something that I want to continue to pass on. Someone, my wife is genetically very similar to me as well. Has the same look as me, dark hair, dark eyes, white skin. You know, I want to continue pushing that forward into the future.
Mm-hmm. What's funny, for example, in my situation is that when I have short hair, I actually look like my father, but when I have long hair, I kind of look like my mother. It's really cool. Yeah.
I was looking at a picture of my brother and how him and my dad actually look very much alike. I actually confused them on the phone because they sound so similar.
Yeah, Alexander, here's the question. Does your dad look effeminate or does your mother look masculine?
Oh. No, that's me. That's just me, you know. Okay. Because
all right. Do you look feminine or do you look masculine?
I mean, people need to reinforce that anecdote was something I did some Engineers Without Border stuff in Central Africa way back in the day, and when I was in America, I went to Chambersburg, Philadelphia, and I was on the Ivory Coast for a little bit. And I was like, I've seen your faces before. I can probably tell you where you came from, because you just see the same facial structures. You see the same with the eye sets, with the nose sets, like they're weird fucking like different levels of like my jaw, different levels of overbite. It's like, okay, like I've seen you all before.
Yeah, by the way, for example, that same example I could use to talk about the Venezuelans, because the Venezuelans have, you know, a certain palpable bone structure. Their faces kind of look like the same. Their bodies look fairly similar.
Short, squat, you know, brown.
No. They are more slightly whiter, but
I'm thinking of the Honduran.
They have some African features. Between some African and Arab, it's really weird. These guys are really weird, but you notice who's a Venezuelan and who's not. That's something interesting that I have to add with what Nolan was saying.
But with the Venezuelans, yeah, I could tell exactly what you mean, because there's many of them that have come over here, and they have more. Yeah, like a little bit more African features in some sense, and but there are some that are pretty white, and I got to say that there are some, but it's a very few.
I've got a couple friends who are from Venezuela, and they're lefties too, but I can't understand that, and that's the question I ask him. I'm like, yo, I'm like, Perez, I'm like you fucking know what's going on in your country right now. I was like, why are you voting for this? Like, he lives in Texas too. I'm like, you understand, you live there and you make the money you make because that state has been red for a hot minute.
Well, I've heard the idea that many people, if they're the minorities, they're gonna vote for more leftist policies. To be able to eventually get many of them into the country, and then eventually they will become conservative as soon as they become the majority.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's just bizarre because they leave the country, you know, that shithole country, to get away from all that shit, and then they move here and bring those same problems over here. And it's not just Hispanics, it's also the Asians and the South Asians, like the Pajis and the Rajis, and it's like, guys, I thought you wanted to get away from that, not bring it here, and then you have the Californians that are leaving to move to other parts of the state. It's the same thing, and they just don't learn the lesson, or they think, well, it may have not worked at this place, but if we bring it over here, it's probably going to work better, kind of thing.
It's a mix between, like, it's like, sorry, it's like, I think the smart ones know that it's going to shit, so what happens is they go there, play gives me that, and then go back to their own home country and become millionaires in a way. I like the typical spot. Like you have someone from, I don't know, out in like Russia, you know, or Ukraine who comes to America to become an engineer. Well, I'm talking a white person, right? Instead of immigrating to America and seeing everything shit, you know, say if you went to Baltimore or something, goes back to Ukraine. Well, now he's a millionaire because it's rare to find a guy who has engineering over there, and so it's becomes this very strange thing. But again, I think most people come to America as a way to play Gives Me That, and the ship just sinks, or the smart ones know that the ship is sinking, so they just go back to their own countries.
Yeah, America's like a giant shopping mall.
Exactly.
Well, it reminds me of something that Castro thought up of. Castro thought up of, since you know he wasn't getting much resources in his nation. He thought of a plan to just send Cubans, since it has a wet foot, dry foot policy, to just landing in the United States, get the Gibbs, and then go back to Cuba. Literally, that's what they do.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, they go there, they come here, and then they go back to Cuba with the Gibbs, and they still get them. And it's a scheme that Castro actually came up with.
You son of a bitch.
The dangerous part is if the women stay in America and then the white Americans pick them up, then you have some kind of bizarre, like, I don't want to go back to my home country because this amazing white American took me up or something. And I think that's kind of this romantic motif that's being played over again in the past 50, 60 years or something like that. But if nothing happens...
That's how you get people like Stephen Bonnell. Literally, that's how that happened.
Fuck that guy.
Or you have the typical like Mexican American guy running for Republican in California, and he's like, "Oh, I'm definitely American. You see, my family came here, they married American, which means white, and then they want to run in positions of power, whether that means getting more of their own people in or creating this kind of bicultural Mexican American state, whatever that is, you know."
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, I will say that. I don't know. I think there's a lot of territory to be covered, honestly. I think there's untouched territory in the Hispanic community. And I don't know. I've seen a lot of bisection from specifically like Mexican Hispanics out of California, because most blue-collar Mexicans I meet out of like West Coast places like Arizona and California, they were usually pretty hard red. Trump won a good bit of like blue collar Hispanics in California.
Yeah, you got like 30%, 35% of the Hispanic vote.
Some of them have been here for centuries. They're like third or fourth generation, even fifth generation. I think they kind of saw the forest through the trees, and they saw how their ancestral homeland was a total dump. It's like, oh, that's why they don't want them coming here. And then they experience it firsthand. It's like, God damn it. It was kind of the reason why Cesar Chavez supported Operation Wetback, and him and his men literally formed a Chicano militia to, like, pretty much push all the people trying to cross the U.S. borders back, because he even saw it, too. He's like, fuck, these guys are going to cross here legally and drive down our wages and make our farm labor union weaker than before.
I guess that was back then when labor unions actually cared about their workers.
Yeah. Also, by the way, let me throw this. Remember that next Saturday we are going to have El Facho Cast. There are, those guys are Mexicans, and they will have they pretty much know a lot of things, and they are going to throw some information that we don't have about the Soros caravan, about all the Freemasonry, some stuff here and there. So remember to tune in for next Saturday.
Yeah, that's going to be really good. It's always good to meet all these nationalists from other countries, and maybe one of these days we'll try to hit up a Colombian. If you guys don't know, Colombia has like, they call the president, he's like similar to Trump. He's like a right-wing populist, and it's been the first time in so long they've elected a president like that, and it's really interesting learning about him. He had a conversation with Bolsonaro, according to a Brazilian news site a couple weeks ago, saying if they end up taking military action in Venezuela, like pretty much Colombia's got his Bolsonaro support.
Yeah, what do you guys think about that, by the way? What do you guys think about that Bolsonaro possibly going into Venezuela, and also the Colombian leader as well that you mentioned.
Going to Venezuela.
I completely disagree with that because there are two main things over here. First one, we have a regional enemy, which is of course narcotraffic and all this network of cartels. But those guys are much easier to take down, and they are unpopular. Nobody wants them, and these people at the same time are funding Cuba and funding Venezuela and are funding the FARC. So first of all, we need to take down the narco cartel, the narco traffic. No? That's stage one. Stage two, we need to take down the FARC because they are the militia that are going to step in within this conflict. In order to see the whole world burn. That's the whole notion that they have right now. So that's the stage two, and the stage three is of course taking down, Maduro and their fucking government. But without we taking these first two elements, it's going to be a complete mess, and it's going to be completely fucked up. And you are going to see much more migrants, much more refugees, and all this stuff. So in order to do things right, we need to first take down their money source, which is the narcos, tear down their paramilitaries, which are the FARC, and then when they are weakened, we can take down Venezuela.
So you see it the opposite way, basically. You kind of see it that they're doing it the wrong way compared to what you believe is the correct way, which it would be first to get rid of the cartel. They're doing it the opposite way.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like you don't go to the main boss of the game when you are level 20. You gotta be level 100 at the very least.
Now I will say this: when it comes to these cartels and these drug dealers, I support Duterte's method of handling those people. I have no sympathy for people who deal out in narcotics and heroin and all these other hard drugs.
What method does he use?
He executes them.
Oh, just flat out executes them?
Yep. He will do it personally, and I'm okay with that. Because I have these people who dish out drugs, they destroy lives, society, families and communities. Yeah. Fuck these people.
Yeah, there's communities that are just completely drugged out. There's opioid crisis that goes on, and especially here in Florida specifically.
I've had family members die to this kind of shit. So yeah. I have a personal slant against people who are like that.
Yeah, people I went to high school with that died from opioid overdoses. It's pretty nasty, especially in my hometown I grew up in. You walk around, you gotta be careful. You might actually step on a dirty needle, and it's never like that when I was growing up.
Like if there was one thing I'm happy about Bolsonaro saying is that he's going into these. He wants to have these people go, or I think it was either him or one of his governors or whatever, basically saying that they are training people to basically shoot the drug mules so that they can't run their drugs anymore. I might be a little bit Fed posting, but this kind of shit pisses me off.
But Alejandro, let me ask you, so does the FARC have a real stronghold down in your country as well?
No. They just have it in Colombia, but they have been trying to invade Ecuador, us, and a little part of Brazil. But yeah, they are strong in the south of Colombia. So that's why I'm saying, take down their money, then you can take them down, and then take down Venezuela.
I see. Because I know I've heard about the FARC, but I didn't really know if they had a lot of influence other than just Colombia.
Yeah, they are trying to overreach right now.
Well, yeah, it's like every communist. They always want to just go into invade other nations and of course create chaos. And let me ask you, is there any do you know if there's any Jewish influence in them?
Yeah, I believe that last time I saw a documentary about a Colombian reporter. Yeah, this chick basically was tapping into why how Cuba is getting the money from these narcos and the FARC, and also who's behind it. Of course, George Soros.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
You could trace that back all the way down to the arts market in, the metropolitan areas in America. It's all these. I mean, Sam Hine said it best. You just got to convince Jewish people that your art is worth the money, and they'll use it to launder the purchase of hardcore drugs in South America.
Yeah. Also, by the way, there is this organization by George Soros. It's not the Open Societies. It's Black Rock. That's the name. That's how it's called. Is his financial thing. That's how he orchestrated the downfall of the British pound. That's
IMF.
Yeah. That's how he's yeah. But it's a new iteration of that. That's how he's laundering the money from this bloody dirty money from the narcos and the cartels and all that.
God, that guy is just he's just fucking terrible, man. Someone, and not to advocate hate speech laws here in YouTube, but something needs to go on there.
I mean, he's getting old, so hopefully they run out of foreskin magic for him to keep going.
Yeah.
Well, they kept David Rockefeller fucking up as long as they could. That guy was literally looking like a vampire at the end of his life.
Didn't on his what's it called? His post-mortem, they cut him open. He was basically a cyborg. Like he had it basically shown that he had a whole bunch of his liver was no part of it was his original liver. He had because when you have a kidney transplant, if your kidney's close to failing, they won't take out the other one. They'll just put a third one in, and he had two on each side. And his heart had a fucking a highly advanced pacemaker with a fucking conductive lace around every zone.
He had
Rockefeller.
He had 3 or 4 heart transplants. I think he had 4 heart transplants in his life.
Jesus
Christ. He had 3 or 4 heart transplants.
Want to die.
I think he had coupled with drinking the blood of he had 3 or 4
that doesn't want to die.
I think he had coupled with drinking the blood of he had 3 or 4 that doesn't want to die. I think he had
satanic shit and they wouldn't want to die. That's for sure.
You know that there's actual clinics in California now that offer it.
Want to die?
That old super. You know that there's millionaires and millionaires can go and clinics in California now that offer it.
Want to die?
That baby blood.
Really?
Yeah, dude, it's terrifying. But I mean, does that surprise you? We've seen everything else at this point.
Well, I mean, this reminds me of something that probably the Hollywood celebrities would love to put on their face and their bodies and shit like that. They're just as vampire type as those fucking billionaires and those millionaire billionaires.
You know what?
Yeah. That's what blood rivals are.
I hope they get a bad batch of blood.
Oh, I hope so too. Plenty of them. They need to get it tainted. Hopefully, that someone brave enough is
maybe
able to do it for them.
I was gonna say they just defelonized having HIV.
Dude,
so maybe
that's already a year old now.
Yeah,
2 years it's been legal to just spread the bug in California.
Maybe that was a plan to poison the well, in a sense, the blood well.
That might be interesting. By the way, do you guys remember this woman, Elizabeth Bathory? She used to bathe in the blood of virgin women in order to keep her beauty. Does indeed.
I remember hearing about that, but I don't really know much about her past that.
Yeah, but that doesn't this what actors and actresses are doing in Hollywood, and of course the leads doesn't it sounds kind of familiar?
Well, the sacrament of blood is the same. The sacrament, the trade off of life for some worldly possession and life on earth constitutes a worldly possession as well, because when you offer blood as a sacrament, you're trying to extend your life on earth. That's why they say that abortion, gets into some theological waters, but that's why they say abortion is also a sacrament, because when the woman chooses to forego that, it's her extending her own vanity for its worldly possessions. You're exchanging that life for.
Yeah, it's something materialistic instead of something transcendental, would you say?
Yeah, it's symbolic all through history. Since the dawn of time, the sacrament of blood is equated with worldly
In just a
mores.
second. State.
I see.
For feminists, sex is their god and abortion is their sacrament.
This is true.
Exactly.
It's embracing the ugly as holy and as beautiful, and the unholy as, righteous.
Yeah, it's like E. Michael Jones was saying.
Mr. Ambassador,
it's their rebellion. Their entire existence is a rebellion against logic in its entirety.
Yeah. By the way, Mike, how, for example, this phenomenon happens as well in Australia?
Yeah, it's been basically it's been stunted because we've just had this big colonial population and we're still building as a nation, so it's really hard to sell something to us that's antithetical, but antithetical to expansion, antithetical to life in itself. But where our older cities have been struck by it hardest, I mean, Melbourne is the key example to that. It is a degenerate city that literally people, to Fed posts, like people advocate for it to be glassed or quarantined because it is so disgusting to the rest of Australia, and that's where these feminists, these abortion show up. And the only other case outside of that is Queensland recently, where they literally had to ship over people from Melbourne to spread that scourge to the other states. Luckily, in WA, I'm very isolated from this, but aside from that, it's a scourge. It's a disease.
Yeah, definitely, I agree, because the same ideas are coming from. Those ideas came first to Brazil and to Argentina, and then came to Chile, and now they are expanding in Bolivia. In Bolivia, they have something called anarcho-feminism. It's some retarded. But in my country as well, they are pushing this for this narrative like really, really hard. But yeah, of course, and it's Planned Parenthood. Yeah.
Could you say that list in like the progression before? I've never heard the progression of where you say that feminism first took root in South America.
Okay. Well, first it came with I believe it was when was it? Close to the 2000s, I believe. No. It is even. Yeah, it is even older, because
not even the timeline, just what countries you were saying got hit first, because I didn't know that. I'm still pretty new to the listening to the JQ scopes from the South American perspective.
Okay, we first got hit in my brothers from Argentina, and of course also Brazil. But at the same time, it was maybe 5 or 10 years later, Chile got hit, and at the same time it was Venezuela. They're always picking up two countries at the same time. I don't know why is that their strategy, but that's the pattern I have been seeing. And then they took power in Uruguay and Paraguay, and then they came for they came for Colombia and Bolivia, and now they are coming for my country and for Ecuador.
Are you guys reading Tigergen's comments in the super chat?
No, I'm not. What's it say?
Oh my god, dude! Excuse me, the live chat. He said in China you can legally, illegally, I guess, quote, buy aborted or miscarried fetuses. You then raise the baby ghost as a child. You keep the fetus in a statue baby, and the spirit is attached to it. Someone comments, Jesus. It goes on. You feed the spirit with a drop of your blood and keep baby toys around it to entertain it. And if you forget to feed it, it will force itself on you and feed off of you.
Well then.
They do this because the baby ghost will make them rich for keeping them and feeding them. Celebrities are known to do this, and gambling houses in Asia are known to do... They do this because the baby ghost will make them rich for keeping them and feeding them. Celebrities are known to do this, and gambling houses...
Yeah, they came for Colombia and Bolivia, and now they are coming for my country and for Ecuador.
Asians are you guys brutal. Are you guys reading? I was talking to my history class one day, and we were talking about the differences. Oh my god, the Korean War and World War II. Excuse me. What I was telling the rest of the class, just in our little in China, you can legally was like, but well, I was like, no, I was like, I was like, you don't understand. By aborted or miscarried fetuses, rules of engagement. Raise the baby ghost as a child. It comes to keep the fetus. Oh my god, dude. Or like, excuse me, human life. The live chat. If they engage in some, I don't know. They just. He said in China you can legally, but well, illegally. That's not a slight on the Asian community. By aborted or miscarried fetuses. What you heard about what raised the baby ghost as a child versus to keep the fetus in a statue baby and the spirit is attached to Riker, the allies. Someone comments, Jesus. Night and day difference. It goes on. You feed the spirit with a drop of your blood and keep baby toys around it to entertain it. And if you forget to feed it,
Muslim areas, right? It's pretty ruthless.
Yeah, it's why probably every white guy on the face of the earth has like at least 1% Khan DNA.
Yeah, it was Yakut. That's the name, right? Yakut master race.
I believe Russians have more than just a few percent from Khan DNA. But I'm not sure.
I mean, it's weird. Russians are the hardest to like narrow down as far as like, I think physical features. Russians are the hardest to pick out of a crowd.
No, they kind of look some. Have you seen their eyes? The eyes of Putin or maybe Dugin?
It's kind of beady sometimes, but like I said, it's such a vast landmass. I don't think it's really. It is not comparable to any other continent.
Yeah, there's a lot of diversity in their looks because could have somebody from a Caucasus region look more similar to an Arab. Somebody in Moscow looks more like any other German.
Yeah, and there's it's also the older manifestations of whatever races, whatever Caucasoids settled in that area.
So the show's been going on for a while. I think it's about time we can wrap it up.
Yeah.
Anybody got any final words?
I'm not so sure. Other than that, I just hope things go good and none of this chaotic genetic designer baby things and worldwide color invasion happens.
Really. I mean, I think in anybody's like, let's dream and say tomorrow that everybody gets their dream ethno state. I think it's something all platforms in the far right should advocate for being. I don't think it's natural. I think it goes against natural law and the whole kind of the narratives and the civic virtues we kind of try to gravitate towards.
Oh, I just remembered something. Also, hopefully in the year 2050, maybe if Spike Lee's still alive or some protege of him, I hope they don't record these sessions and talk about how evil and vile Google Hangouts was and how we're just spewing hate and not about the revolution,
Yeah, it depends on if they win, right? If they win, their history books are going to be filled with the most hateful, like these recordings are the most hateful recordings. Listen to them.
We're doing Hitler's table talks right now.
Yeah, that's exactly.
This is what I come back to, and
you come back to Hitler's table talks.
You started that without me.
No, yeah, we're just saying that like if there's like if the left wins, the liberal global homo wins, it's gonna be like they're gonna like deconstruct these recordings and be like, oh, look at what these racists, the way they thought, the way they think.
We're just saying the same racist jokes over again and not taking people's feelings.
Since I'm already, I might as well dig my hole deeper, because the next thing I was going to say was now if any of us end up having some genius Aryan offspring who find out a way to make pale skin non-recessive as a gene, now I might not have a problem with that. You go ahead and tinker with the genome all you need to. Yeah, you might be the savior.
Do your best to imitate us if you want. It ain't gonna help you none.
Well, you just gotta. One of the things that I've always I think that it's very important is any group of white people, you need to separate themselves from every other type of group. Like there needs to be a separation in order for them to keep themselves the way that they are. And that you mix different types. Go ahead.
I was gonna say someone's breaking into a car again. So is it Alejandro? Are you doing that again?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. There's sometimes there's animals in the background and everything.
Oh, third world gang. But anyways, I am going to take the Nazgul position over here. It's, for example, I am going to pick up something that Vladimir Lenin said. You know, Lenin with a lot of echoes, but it's interesting nonetheless. He said that we should all hit together or strike together, and then march separately. You know, because of these fucking people are just pissing everyone off with all the. For example, you had the Gamergate, the Comic Gates. You know, now they are censoring, trying to kill cancer kids. You know, they wanna. Yeah, they want to invade all the countries with different peoples, and like they are doing to yours, to mine as well. They are doing that the same to Europe. This is not going to end good for them.
Did you guys see by any chance the Bronx blogger video that he did with like those lefty guys?
Which Bronx blogger? I've seen most of Bronx blogger. What do you do?
No, he blocked me on Twitter, so I don't see any of his stuff.
I wanted him on my podcast, but he said he would think about it. So he does his pretty racism tests on everyone. I don't know if I passed it yet. So, but what shenanigans has he been up to?
Well, him and a couple others were bragging about how they got Ralph Retort's money of the charity that he had, how they got it sent back to the back to the people from.
I did get my money back.
Go ahead.
I got my money back, and
same here.
I wish it would have went to the cancer children, but these AIDS babies that we got going on here, fucking these bug AIDS chasers that are in fucking New York.
Bug chasers.
I would love if 3 Arrows and the Bronx blogger make a stream podcast, Google Hangout, and calls it Counterpause or something. I would definitely tune into that.
Bronx blogger is they were pretty much bragging about the idea that, and then they even said it's like, oh, what's it gonna do? 26,000 save like 2 children. And I'm like, what the fuck? They don't even care.
Well, that sounds like a normal year of college education for an average American, so it does matter. 26,000.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. Better 2 cancer kids than 1,000 posies.
Right.
Exactly.
The guys in the heel turn said it was like in that one day it'd make up about 10% of the revenue that St. Jude's would make up in a whole year. Which is a huge amount. Like that's a lot of money. It's like nothing. It's not a joke. Like
and also, by the way, for example, let's remember that we all as nationalists are always trying to trying to further down with the youth. So basically, what these people are saying, you know, they want to keep in their own way. They want to get rid of or kill these kids. They are basically traitors.
Well, none of them have kids to begin with, so I can see why they cancer kids that way.
Well, they see it as they see children as something to be rejected, and it's kind of disturbing.
Rejection of the logos.
Well, I I think that's a good note to leave it on. I want to thank all of the guests for coming on. Thank you, Memphis, Zeke, and I think Mike left, but I want to thank him too.
Yeah, he had to go. He had to remember the fallen.
Mm-hmm. Too bad we don't have Remembrance Day here. I didn't even know they had a.
We have Veterans
holiday
Day.
like. Well, yeah, we have Veterans Day, but that's really just for like World War One. We don't really remember World War One holidays here.
Well, yeah.
So.
Anyway.
Well, thanks for having us on, man.
Yep. And hopefully you guys can tune in next week on Saturday, same time for the Minority Report. I think this time it's going to be on TheAngryShark's channel? Alejandro's channel. Okay. Well, make sure to subscribe to him. His channel is Zero Skit Show. You can catch me on This Hour Has 56 Minutes. I do it with my co-host Dan Man. And Dan Man also is starting to do his own live streams on his own channel. Is that right?
Yeah, it's just called the Anti-Communist Show. So it's me, and I'll go over with the crowd over some articles and things like that. But away from that, I guess everybody else just go ahead and plug in your stuff, Memphis.
Yeah, man. I run a small stream, Rebel Faction, and I'm back and forth on Lost Eurasians, Radcap Radio, all that. You guys will see me around, I'm sure.
Good, Pilleater.
Yeah, well, it's just youtube.com/Pilleater, and I'm actually doing some YouTube videos now, and I'm gonna actually do iMovie Pro and do something about board games. I don't know.
Like Monopoly?
In a way,
Warhammer.
Maybe that in typical quartering or unsleeved media term, possibly. But I have some ideals. Yeah, but I could do something about Monopoly. Yeah, how it wasn't made by a feminist.
And good, Red Angry Shark. Just your channel, right? To Lost Eurasians.
Yep. We didn't have a live stream last Tuesday because of the election, but we're gonna be back we're gonna be back on Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Pilleater, I think we're gonna get Brandon Adamson on, so we should.
Awesome. Yeah, I just talked to him a few nights ago, so that'd be cool.
Perfect. Okay, we'll be sure to contact him and have him on, and then yeah. Other than that, that's pretty much all I have going.
And Zeke, I heard you have a new live stream, new show.
You can find me, Mike Nolan, and Pinochet Bowl over at our YouTube channel, Carpe Noctem, which is what we're calling the show. We'll be doing a stream tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Eastern. We'll be having a guest, and hopefully we'll be having a guest tomorrow, and you guys will enjoy it. Trying to make it's supposed to be like a comfy stream, You can kick back, relax a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about politics, but it'll mostly be like shooting the shit with your buddies.
Sounds good. I think everybody should tune into that one. We need some streams that aren't as serious, something that you can really have good entertainment for, especially since a lot of people cut cable. I don't even have cable anymore either, or Netflix, or
Mike.
even Hulu.
Mike, what do we look for to find Carpe Noctem? What do we search for?
Mike left. Carpe Noctem. You actually can search it. You can just search it in YouTube. It's in the top right, not one of the top things that comes up.
Is it with an E?
CarpeNoctem.
Got it.
Yep, and thanks again for coming on. Make sure to check out the show next week, and have a good night.
Good night, guys.